Welcome back, guys. Thanks for tuning in again. Today we're gonna be joined by Sal Buscemi. Can I say that right? Buscemi? How's that?
Buscemi, yeah, Buscemi, yes.
Who's the managing partner and co-founder of Brahmin Partners. So welcome to the podcast, Sal.
Thank you, Jeff. It's a pleasure and a privilege to be here. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, yeah. And so if you could, let's start off. Tell me a little bit about yourself and what you guys are doing over at Brahmin Partners.
We are a multifamily office that makes principal investments with our own balance sheet and also the balance sheet of other families between 100 million and 1.3 billion. And we invest them into world-class startups. And what that means to us is that no first-time founders. And also, we want a world-class family in kind leading it. You don't want a real estate family leading a life science investment, for example. We do that. We also have real estate. We just finished our first Class A real estate deal with one of the most serially successful families in America, which is Class A industrial, which we really like, and we have a track record with that. And we provide a lot of leadership too, a lot of interactivity, and we're very happy with everything. The way it's worked out. We've had tremendous successes that we enjoy. We've gotten into things like SpaceX, Stripe, company called AI.io, which is just absolutely screaming growth, and I should announce some good news soon. And then also on top of that, some other companies you haven't heard of, but they have heavyweight management teams.
Excellent. And the name Brahmin, how did you come up with that?
It's interesting. It has a duality, right? So a lot of people think it's the highest caste, and it is, in Indian culture, correct? East Indian culture. It's actually an nomenclative homage to the founders that support us, and some of them invest in us, and my partners and some of our investors in Boston. After the Boston Brahmins being thought leaders during the time of, the country's adolescence and really shaping the form of that country with their own accents and things like that. So we uh, we appreciate it. People like the name. I like it too. I think it's cool, but we didn't know how much of an effect it would have as far as people being enthusiastic about a name.
That's a great name. Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely. So you mentioned family offices and real estate, and again, you have an opportunity to talk about your books too. I'm again one of your customers now about one of the Audible books, but you
Well,
have
I'm going to give free copies to people who want autographs shipped to them, and they don't have to pay anything. I'll talk about that later.
absolutely. So there's a few books here, and let me just start with the first one: Investing Legacy: How the 0.001% invest. So high level, who should be reading that?
Anyone who's come into money or they don't know what's going on, there's going to be a tremendous shift generationally. I don't think all that money is just going to go in and be put to good use and continue prosperity. I think a lot of it will be squandered. But those of you who come into their own, who don't know really want to know what their bigger brothers and sisters are doing, who are richer, that's what it is. It answers everything. It sort of demystifies a lot of probably widely held truths that a lot of people felt, but they never heard or could actually conceptualize. Right? Talk about like the differences in professional sports ownership versus somebody who wants to go headfirst in the crypto, right? So if you've already got the money and you're over $100 million, this is you have an entirely different outlook on the world as it relates to making much more of an impact. People who have less than that, anyone less than 50, they're still edgy, they're still nervous, they're still, wanting to get rich quick again. That's what we see. And they tend to go into things that they think are, certain certainties that they get into, most likely like maybe later stage SpaceX or Stripe or something like that. Whereas the families, they're a little more strategic. They add a lot more than just capital. They add reputational capital, and that really is the secret to our sauce. Is just making sure that when we invest in these companies, that we have an in-kind family leading it. Sometimes through volume, that's happened to us. Sometimes, we become the biggest investor, but it's great because the families that invest in you, you invest in them. People think that founders don't have any money. Well, if you've had 18 exits and 7 unicorns, most recent being, I think, Cologar sold to Abbey Labs for the highest ever diagnostics paid for $34 billion. There's that trust in that relationship that they're leveraging because they want to work with you. Money today is relationship oriented, and it's much different than some of these guys I see coming out of Wall Street on the investment management side. They might be great stock pickers and traders, but they have absolutely no bedside matters with their investors.
What's your ideal like relationship intro? Let's say you don't know somebody Is it word of mouth to have a new
It's word of mouth. Yeah, reputation is everything, right? And it's also interactivity. I tell people if they want to see what's going on behind the scenes or if you invest, you need to read my emails, right? I do not want people who are just going to sit there and then all of a sudden send me a text message like, "What's going on with my investments?" I don't need this. We showcase all of our investments all the time, so there's an expectation there that you're going to participate. And quite frankly, the amount of money some people have invested into our deals, they should be checking my, resting heart rate maybe, just more or less opening emails and everything like that. But it's the warm handoff where an investor is invested in you and she's handing off to you to another investor. That trust is made and it is sacred. The corollary to that, or the opposite of that, is that if someone hasn't invested and they don't know you and they're making introductions and you don't really respect the person in the first place who's making the introductions, you're not really going to respect about 99% of the time the person they're referring you to. So, you got to be very careful as it relates to networking. I know this isn't about networking, but it's always, especially in these, it's always word of mouth. And that is the best way to very, very quickly build a brand.
what's your 5-year vision here? So here we are, 2026, gonna say
Hmm.
first week of February, getting us from here to 2030. Like, what's your vision of like, you know, looking your favorite customers in the eye and saying, okay, thank you for being with me for 5 years. Where do you want to be and where do you want your customers to be?
Well, more than that, I just want them rich. I want them richer. That's it. That's the only thing. I want them to, of course, have the impact. I want them to have fun too. Best part about living in Miami and South Florida is that there's always a lot of networking events going on. And so the investors I always bring, we had one woman who's a big investor of ours, and she got in the back seat of a Porsche. She's short, a little older, but me and this other family drove up to Palm Beach, did a cannonball run up there, talked about some stuff in the longevity space, and then turned around and came back. And now that's where the relationship building is, right? You can't be afraid of people. You can't be awkward. You need to have some sort of charisma, really, if you're out there doing what I do. And you're also going to have to develop a skill set post haste, which is that you become a solution provider to a lot of these people. And that's how, not just through money, but through other things, maybe through high value introductions, not just capital, but other things as well.
Yeah, I fully appreciate that. Where listening and quarterbacking, if you can't do something yourself, it's like
Yeah. Yeah.
trusted bi-directional referral partners, and you're
Yep.
you're buying into a network of high quality people. That's
Yeah.
perfect.
I mean, it's why people join expensive golf clubs and country clubs. It's that they want to network. That's why people spend take it from me, $150,000 a month for a house in the Hamptons because it's about the networking, right? That's why the higher you pay, the sweeter and the tighter the circles are, but that's where the legitimacy is. If you're, going to free meetups, you're going to be meeting people who are first time founders who are needy, they have egos, and a lot of service providers.
Mm.
Everybody needs service providers, but we already have service providers, and um, we're just very careful to only work with the families and give them the attention first.
You mentioned first time founders a few times. How
Yeah.
many exits does someone need to have before they're before the
I mean, that's like asking how the weather is in America today, or how much does a bag of groceries weigh, right? And so I'll tell you, we've had one CEO who's had I think two exits, and this is going to be his third. It's probably going to be our biggest hit from a multiple standpoint, even more so than SpaceX, I think, in the short term at least. And Stripe. We have another one called Thrive Bioscience, which is founded by a pedigreed founder, seasoned founder, and exited founder. Anybody can start a company, but exiting it is an entirely different thing, especially for a profit. He's had 17 exits and eighth unit. I think Thrive will be his eighth unicorn. And he has, yeah, 18 exits, eighth. Yeah, his most recent was Abbott Labs being sold I'm sorry, for Exact Sciences, Cologuard being sold to Abbey in the highest ever diagnostics merger or acquisition, $34 billion. So that we like certainty because it's a people business, right? It's not just plugging about. This isn't AI, especially when you're getting in building companies. This is not. This is like you are working with people and you want to be able to, and it takes a lot to get into this, and it's trust. Everybody thinks that, how come I'm not getting into these deals? How come I'm crowdsourcing? Well, you either don't have a lot of money or nobody really trusts you yet. Because when you're raising money and you tell someone you're going to invest $100,000, $250,000, they take that seriously, right? If you're just saying that because you want them to think that you're impressive, you're going to backfire and lose. And so there's a lot of trust, especially with, I mean, there's been so much wealth created during the pandemic. I think Doge showed us a good idea of what was going on with that. And that doesn't necessarily, and so capital's become a commodity today. Everybody's got it, right? But you don't want that capital from just anybody because there's going to be certain people who you don't want to work with. We trust our serial investors more so because they know and understand the ropes of how we operate.
That makes sense, yeah. As far as AI startups, are you invested in the Bay Area, like, from Miami? I know New York and Miami is the financial capitals, but
Well, I think, Miami used to be founder capital, but they were second class founders, right? And I think, yeah, we are, of course, always looking into AI. We'll actually be at the Stripe sessions in late April, actually. We are an investor in Stripe. So, I mean, we look at these opportunities, but we want to see what is it, what does the founder look like first and who's leading the investment? If it's some guy in his garage, it's not, yeah, everybody starts at that level, but we'd like to probably be a little further in down the line, and we'd like to be in these investments that you're invited to, not something where it's like widely shopped all over the place.
makes sense, yeah, absolutely. Okay, I'm going back to your books. You got Making the Yield, Real
Yes.
Estate Hard Money Lending Uncovered. Others have
Yeah.
paid as high as $1,800 on Amazon for a hard copy of this book.
Mhm.
Are you telling me
Yep.
there's scarcity and,
No, I don't know what happened with the publisher, but the paperback went as high as like $1,800, and I have a screenshot of it. That was a book I wrote after my second fund because what happened is I did a lot of distress at Goldman, and I raised my first 30 at the age of 29 from a Park Avenue investment manager. And we were buying all these whole loans. And then we went and I went west and we were doing the same thing where we bought a servicer for $1 and recapitalized it with $30 million. And we were buying broken first trust deed hard money loans. And people were like, how do I stop from getting screwed? I don't understand. And there was all sorts of document deficiencies, bankruptcies, all sorts of issues you can think of in 2008 when that credit crisis happened. It lasted for a while. And we were able to use a Dutch auction technique to be able to buy these pieces for pennies on the dollar from three types of investors. They were either very apathetic and angry, or they were helpful and rich. And once we got 51% of that, then we were able to package it up and sell it to a REIT. What's happened now is that a lot of people were wondering how to do this, and then I wrote a second book, which I'm sure you're going to go into, Raising Real Money Real Estate Funds Uncovered. That came next. But then afterwards, I went to Investing Legacy because I was being asked a lot of questions by mostly female people who had discretion. These are people who write the checks or the people who have some sort of discretion or an ear into their family. And they were always asking me the same questions. And so I just wrote it down and I went with a female publisher, Beverly Hills Publishing, Andrea Albright, and she did a great job marketing, not just publishing it, but marketing it well, getting the message correct. And I had a Rockefeller in there. Now I've had ex-bosses from Goldman Sachs in there, and they were very comfortable working with her to deliver that message. And we can talk about authoring a book later, but that really is sort of like the handbook or my business card when I meet with family.
is the audience for your books like a high net worth individual, or do you see it more of like institutional, like the family offices and the financial
They're
advisors?
they're all over. They're all over. Yeah,
Okay,
they're all. I think you know Jeff Bezos keeps counts on a lot of things. I haven't looked into the metrics lately, but I think that they're more affluent from what I see. All right, is more affluent. I mean, a regular retail investor, mom and pop investor, they're not going to be able to get into any of these investments. There's just they don't have enough money to get into it. I mean, think about it. The barrier to entry to get into an NFL sliver of ownership, and I don't follow the NFL, but I hope both teams will, have fun this weekend for the Super Bowl. But that's the entry level is $100 million, right? So
also
I gotta find some big guys who can write some big checks.
also political too. Like it was that the show Billions, right? They were like,
Yeah.
not just anyone's allowed to. There's a reputational association.
Oh yeah, I wrote about that in the book. I mean, it is more embarrassing than being rejected from a New York City condo board, right? I mean, everybody hears about it. And it's good because these are family-owned businesses, right? They don't want, and I've heard stories, and I have friends in the industry. If you read chapter 5, you'll know who I'm talking about. And you get all these whispers like so and so was trying to buy this, but he got rejected because you do a Google search on him, and there might have been some inappropriate things he'd done with women, right? So right off the bat, it's just that's it. These people don't want to have to sit and have dinner with you if they don't respect you in the first place.
I think that is a common theme that we keep seeing is at a certain level in life, let's just do
Hmm.
this with people we like.
Yeah. I mean, but these are people who are professional, they're professional investors. They have capital, they network, they're meeting people. This isn't for like the middle class who's working 9 to 5 or, a doctor who's barely surviving unless they're into plastics or something. It's just you need to make time for it. And if you don't have time to do it, then you're never going to find that.
You know, absolutely. So you've authored these books, and I think one of the best rewards is to write something authentic and then to have your fan or your reader talk to you and say thank you. So
Yeah.
do you get to talk to your readers? You like, so do you see the circle get completed where you put it out in the world and then someone's like, Sal, I read your book. I'm picking
Hmm.
up what you put down. Thank you for the effort.
Yep.
Now help me in private. Hey, like that's cool that you put
Yeah.
that out there. Like, have you had
Yeah. Here's a
turn?
Calendly link and let's talk. That's the next step.
Absolutely. Okay.
All right, fine. Yeah, here's a Calendly link. I don't know what
Yeah.
if I can, I'm going to qualify them first, right? I'm not just not anyone willy nilly, but I'd want to qualify them first before I get on the phone with them.
Yeah, and that's what I hope to achieve with this type of podcast too is,
Yeah.
this is the currency
Oh
of,
yeah.
the culture is like talking to people, putting it out there and then saying, "Okay, now that I'm off stage, let's talk privately. Like, how can I really help?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, attention is the new oil,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Exactly.
So, you're absolutely right about that. But yeah, I mean, the currency is interactivity, and we're just more interactive. Here in Miami, we're going to be talking about one of our deals, and we're all meeting in a conference room first, and then we go out for happy hour afterwards on Thursday. So, it's good.
How So you're originally from New York. How long have you been in Miami?
3 years, through about 3 years, 2 months.
You see yourself this is the next place, this is where you are, your roots?
It is a lot of fun. It is not boring. There's always people coming to see me. As awful as that sounds, I don't need to travel anywhere, with the exception I have to go to meet a bunch of families in Kansas City this coming week. Yeah, everybody comes to me. It's just very, very busy. And it's the same thing like living in New York, but you don't have to worry about the traffic. I don't have a car anymore. I just walk all over the place. I tell people you can meet me here, you meet me there. I can get things set up pretty quickly for meetings. And I just make it easy for the people to come in and see me. Everybody's coming to Miami at some point in the Northeast corridor, right? They just it's just they're all coming in. They just don't know when or what the driver is. And the driver, especially this time of season between now and like beginning of May, is conference season, right? We were just talking offline how I'm invited to this huge crypto event, that's from 9 to 3 a.m. at the Moore here in Miami. There's a lot to do, a lot of people to meet.
That's right, yeah. Art Basel.
Our Basel, eye connections. We had uncorrelated alts, which I spoke on stage last year with. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of it. Everybody has a reason to come down here, which is great. And maybe I need a reason to go to Palm Beach, and I can just get on the Bright Line. They have free Wi-Fi, and I can just hammer away to what I need to do.
That's all. Well, hey, this has been a lot of fun. I really appreciate your time. Great
Thank
energy.
you.
Yeah, I mean,
Thank you.
you tell when someone knows what they're talking about, and So here's my question for you.
Yeah.
We're gonna put the links to everything in the show notes when we publish this. But what's the best way to reach you? So someone who watched this, who likes you, wants to reach out. You mentioned
Yeah.
Calendly, but what is the best way
Yeah. No.
to reach out?
I am actually going to be giving copies of my book away to your readers who ask for it. If you want to do that, you have to mail your physical mailing address. Otherwise, my assistant will send you a PDF. I'm just saying. Okay. You want a physical? It's on me. It doesn't pay for anything. You don't pay for anything. That is Sal at investinglegacy.com. Sal at investinglegacy.com.
So,
And there's also a link to, if you want to see our family office's website, you can go to brahmanpartners.com, which is great too.
awesome. Well, thanks so much for your time. Great to put a face to a name and hear your
Thank you.
story. And yeah, this is great. So with that, we'll end the show and see you guys next time.
Thank you, Jeff.